Malti is a fractional chief product officer at Huggy, a women's career engagement platform. She's a seasoned global product leader, startup mentor, and freelance product coach and trainer. She has more than 2 decades of professional experience in building global software products. She's the founder of a product podcast called Level Up Podcast, which features product leaders and entrepreneurs. She is also a visiting faculty for product management at IIM Udaipur and a product leadership coach and a trainer. She also mentors deep tech startups associated with Masscom. She was awarded Women Leader of Year for Product Management by Gain Skills India in February 2024. She is very passionate about diversity and inclusion and has led these site level chapters at the organizations she's worked for. She's also a seasoned speaker and at various events. Welcome, Malti, to today's Women in Product Summit.
Thank you. You guys can hear me clear?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was a very kind introduction, and I'm really glad to see so many smiling faces on a Sunday morning. So first of all, thank you for all of you for being here. Let's give her a lot of applause. This is nothing but it's basically an investment in yourself. Agree? Yes. Yeah. And believe me, I know, especially with a lot of nice souls dependent on us for our morning breakfast and the lunches, it takes a lot of personal grit and motivation to get all that done and come over to this place. So let's celebrate that. So thank you, IBL, for inviting me. Really glad. And I think one of the things which I really want to call out is that it's not only women. I see some men out here. So cheers to that. Alright, so when I look at this title, it kind of resonated a lot, right? So I'm going to guys, I have to speak for like 45 minutes, right? But I can't do it one way, right? By design, I'm not wired like that. So it has to be a two-way conversation, right? So because it's about all of us, it's not about me, right? So please keep it coming, right? And if you are not going to come, I'm going to come right there after the last page. Alright, so okay, so these slides are basically just to give me a little framework, which direction, otherwise I can be all over the place, right? So, first of all, I think for all of us to be here in a place where we are definitely one of the privileged ones in the society. Do you all agree that?
Yes.
Right? And there is a lot of hard work, changes that our grandmothers did, because of which we are able to move, right? She spoke about exposure, right? If my mother or her mother wouldn't have stood up for her, probably we wouldn't have seen this change, right? So, I mean, I definitely come from a family of very, very strong women. Whether it was my grandmother, she was the anchor while she was not working, she definitely was proud mother for 10 kids, right? And she was the anchor, right? Later, my mom, she was a working mom, she was a teacher, so I know the grind from day one, right? At the age of 8 years, I had to manage my own pony and I had to pack my own lunch and for my little toddler brother as well and manage myself, right? So I think one of the things which I learned from my mother is to pass on your kids to be independent and not dependent on you. So that's something I really give it to my parents, and of course not to miss out on the boys in the families. We have to give it to them for all the support, right? All right. So a little bit about me. Since this is Women in Product, this is an area of passion which I discovered back in 2008 when product managers were confused a lot with project managers. I think it is still there. Do you think it is going away? No. If I still put if on Google I put project PM questions, it still shows me project management questions because Google has been stereotyped so much. Right? So 2008. So as you can see, 24 years now actually in the industry. I was in the 2000 batch, not a very great year to start with all the .com buzz. I was from a Visual Basic developer, I was asked to move to become a SAP, ABAP developer. I don't know if any of you have heard about ABAP, right? And such a nice fancy screen, I was suddenly told, okay, now you have to look at this instruction procedural language program. I was not really happy to it, but I have to give it to it because of that. It was my bread and butter for the next 13 years. right? So that's what made my transition into IT. By the way, I'm a botany graduate, so I just got that. That's not my journey line, but my journey line has never been like this. There have been a lot of ups and downs over there, and I think pretty much with all of us out there, right? 2009 was when I decided that I wanted to move away from being a developer. So I was doing partly a lead engineer, project manager, whatever my manager could think of, he would just throw at me, and I would just pick it up. Not really thinking that yes, I could decide what I wanted to do. At that point of time, it was just going with the flow, whatever the opportunity that comes your way, seek it out. Anyways, so 2009, when I picked up being a product manager, I was definitely an accidental product manager. I was, as I said, partly project manager, I said, how different can it be? And my hiring manager made sure that the JD was as abstract, as vague as it can be. Right? Talking to customers, I do it now also. Manage your stakeholders, I do now also. Design your product, I do now also. Because the team where I was working, it was basically called as custom development. So on top of the vanilla SAP product, we would do further development for the customers. So I was still taking requirements, I was still translating that into code. Anyway, long story short, I joined this thing and I asked my manager, okay, tell me what is my responsibilities. He says, go and figure it out. Okay. I reached out to every single person within SAP. I think at that point of time, we were about 5,000 people. Not very far, 2 kilometers from here. And I used to stay right beside CMRIT at that point of time. Anyway, so I went to every single person whose title remotely said product owner, product manager, everybody. And I was like, okay, this doesn't really sound what is expected out of me, because I had said, and there was one chief product officer based in Germany, and I was supposed to take over him. Right? He was somebody, he was retiring basically. Right? So I had really big shoes to fill out. Anyhow. And the reason why I'm telling the story was that particular transition which I did to product management actually pushed me, wantingly or unwantingly, into something called as community building. Right? Because I basically wanted, because people, I remember the first person so I was basically a global product manager. We had about 1,500 installations of the product that I was managing. It used to be called as test data migration server. So basically what we would do is that we would take a slice of the production system, put it into our test system, non-production system, so that we could do tests. Okay, so we had about, I was responsible for a revenue of about $200 million, which was a lot of money. So I was told I have to manage APAC, I have to manage Americas, Europe, everything, and it was very overwhelming, right? Somebody with 8-9 years of experience, it was very overwhelming. So finally I found somebody and he gave me a lot of jargons. You have to do roll-in, you have to do roll-out, you are responsible for GTM, you have to do pre-sale support. And I was like, okay, where am I going to find how to do all this, right? And that is when I figured out, in those days we did not have IPLs, we did not have WhatsApp groups, we did not even have LinkedIn groups of those times, right? There used to be one community called as adaptive marketing. And the most prized product managers in those days were coming from Yahoo. And anybody guesses for the second company? Just throw it out there. Oracle, yes. Oracle and SAP were there. But another one which was very product focused. Product led.
Microsoft?
Microsoft, no. It was more eBay.
Amazing. eBay.
Right? See, while Oracle and SAP are definitely very, very prized product companies, but the limelight was a lot. Like today when we talk about big tech companies, we talk first about Google and then about Microsoft. Right? So there is that brand, there is that Shosha, whatever it is, anyway. So anyway, that's how, and that is when every Saturday I would, at least for the next 2-3 months, I would just turn up at any kind of product event, and that is how I discovered Gartner actually. Because I would go to every single meetup. So that was my exposure basically into community that you can learn from your peers. There is so much of goodness of work which is happening in other companies, and you can kind of roll it all in, and then you have to take a decision what works for you and what doesn't work for you, right? Anyhow, so one thing led to the other, and I think I kind of soon figured out after 3 years, okay, I am not adding any more value into this product. Then I went on to join EMC. I used to manage a product called Documentum. Then I went on to move to Intuit. How many of you have heard about Intuit? Yeah? Okay, so when I first time got the call, I was like, okay, what is this company all about? Because they hardly had any products in India, right? I think that time only thing the QBO was coming up in India. Anyway, so I spent next 4 years over there. Then I moved on to join Society Generale, and then I was working with PayPal. That was my last job, day job, as a senior director of products. And since 2020, I think I kind of got into this group where I said, I have to do something of my own. And I think largely responsible for this was NASCOM, because I started doing a lot of volunteering since 2017, 2018 with NASCOM. And that showed me that there are other things also beyond just building products that you are doing. You are definitely creating a lot of impact, but there are other ways of creating impact. It is not only about putting it out there, but there are other ways. And I'm not saying that you don't add value what you do, but I think it was probably also the midlife crisis that I was going through. I think she said he was old in his late 40s. I said, no! The 40s is the new 30s.
Right? I did the job first day, she said, old people. I said, how old? Very old.
Alright, how many of you are in the 10 to 20 years of experience range?
Experience.
No, I'm going to be very polite. So do you, okay, so I'm assuming the rest, everybody else is less than 10? Do we have anybody greater than 20? I don't need job. Okay, that's a good number. Alright. Do you guys have this itch to say that how do I create more impact and value beyond my day job? Yeah? Yeah? And it's not a woman thing.
No.
Everybody goes through this, right? I mentor so many people, everybody, because I think with the changing life, I would say stage that we are in, career stage, our priorities are different, right? Within the first 15 years, it is about make that house, get that car, put your kids to the best schools and a lot of things, right? And after that, it is about, okay, whatever I'm doing, what is the value that I'm adding? How does it make sense to me as an individual? It becomes kindly more purpose. Okay, I'm not going into those philosophical things, but it is a reality, right? Our brain goes through some different brain waves and we all get it. So that's what basically led me to pursue my solopreneurship. I definitely had to do all the convincing around. I think more than my spouse was definitely very supportive, but I think it was my parents who couldn't digest it. They were like, why would you leave your fulfilling day job to do something of your own? And I told them that I may not have a salary for next 6 months, 1 year, because I was completely clueless. I knew that there were some hazy things I wanted to do, but nothing was crystallized, right? So that was definitely a lot of pushing me outside my comfort zone. Alright, so fast forward last 2 years, what have I done? To be honest, I have done a lot of different crazy things. I have just gone the way I would do my products. Experiment, right? Something worked, something did not work, but it's okay, at least I tried. So, summary, I now work as a fractional CPO, so part-time CPO, fractional. A lot of people told me fractional is the first time when we saw it in your title. So, fractional is basically, in a simpler word, part-time. Right, so I work as a fractional chief product officer with a company called as Her Key. Now it is Her Key. It used to be formerly called as Jobs for Her. Any of you have heard about Jobs for Her? Yeah. Do you know what they do?
So they are into this space of similar to like Naukri, the Naukri.com and Monster.
Right. What is the difference between a Naukri and a Jobs for Her?
Jobs for Her is for the women.
Right. Right. It's about the women. Anybody knows what is Her Key all about? If anybody has heard about it, I'm not going to give that answer to Neja because she knows about that. Has anybody heard about Her Key? Okay, all right. Let me talk a little bit about that since it's about women and products. So it completely makes sense for me to talk about that. So basically, Jobs for Her started, as she said, back in 2015, and Neja has been associated with them for a long time as a mentor on their platform. So it was basically started for women returnees who are looking to come back to work, right? And you exactly as you said, it's like Naukri for women. And now, about 9 years later, what we are looking to do is that we have all sorts of women on our platform. We have starters, we have restarters, that is people who are looking to come back to work. We have people like you who are risers, who are already doing fantastic in their day job and now want to get into doing many, many more bigger things. So what we are building, if I can, is this recorded?
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, it doesn't have to say that. What we are looking to do is that build something called as Women Career Engagement Platform, where women can share whatever she would like to share, she would like to celebrate. women can connect with others, right? Which you do in a lot of other social media platform, right? And the most important thing, you can connect with companies, right? And you can connect with experts, like a lot of speakers that they're going to out here, right? So that's exactly what I'm building with them. So
Is it similar to lead club?
no, Lead Club is much more purely about networking. We are going to be here everything. It's going to be about jobs, it's going to be about companies, it's going to be about networking, is definitely community. So we have 3 pillars, what we call. We call it as opportunities, communities, and learning. All the 3. So we will have learning partners. For example, IBL offers product management course, you can find it there. We are going to be having companies which are going to offer jobs. You will have their recruiters and a bunch of other people. So yeah, so we kind of launched our beta version in November last year with a small pool of our users. We are looking to launch our bigger version of the product in another few months. Okay, so that was about it. And apart from that, I'm a visiting faculty at IIM Udaipur at Masters Union. Yeah, I have also done a couple of guest lectures. How many of you are part of the IPL program? Okay, quite a few of you. Yeah, I've done a couple of guest lectures over here. And apart from that, as she said, I'm a product leadership coach. Something that I started this year earlier was my podcast. So we have to say like a lot of other things. Product is also something which we have borrowed from the West. Yeah, but there is a lot of goodness of work with Made in India and the startup ecosystem, the whole ecosystem that has been provided. There are so many fantastic work that our country has done, right? And if I have to go back to one of the slogans that we say at NASCOM is that we want to bring in 100,000 more product managers, equipped product managers, and we want to strengthen India as a product nation, right? And that means a lot of work, right? So that is where I decided that I want to talk about stories of products which are built out of India, for India. Now, I cannot be saying that only for India, right? So for the world. So many of us, I mean, just before this session, we were having a laugh about working with GCCs, right? In my own career, almost except till I decided that I wanted to hang my boots, I was working with GCCs. So there is so much of significant contribution that we are doing to the global world. So that's exactly what I talk about in my podcast, so you could check it out. And the other different thing which I decided to do, so I'm a very B2B kind of a person, you know, I think that's my comfort zone. So the one area which I had to push myself was to launch my own course, right? So that's, and it wasn't bad. I have about 12 students in my batch, which is the first running batch. It's a 3-week course. So that was something new that I did this year, right? So I think one of the things which I decided for the last few years is that at least one new thing that I want to try every year, which is something which I have never done. So yeah, that was a very, very long introduction, but yeah, so before we kind of, one question I have is that why do we still need to have events like this where it needs to be focused on women? Why can't we just have co-ed events, for lack of a better word? Yeah? The lady in the green checks, why do you think we need to still have these kind of women specialized events?
So they get to know more about their others' women experiences and then learn more.
Okay. Don't you think we can do it in co-ed events?
Yeah, we can do, but when compared to that, this would be better. Like everyone feels very comfortable.
Okay, you feel more comfortable. All right, the lady in the white.
Basically, the problems what women are facing in the corporate are little different than the gents.
Fantastic.
Even at home front also it is different.
Right.
That's why this women forum really help us
Right.
to think and go ahead.
Right, fantastic point. So we are wired differently. We have to acknowledge that, right? The lady in the beautiful green. What do you think you would be able to maximize in an event like this?
To share experience because I'm part of IPL meetings. So I also have learned business 2 years before.
Fantastic. Wow, that's absolutely. I would like to ask the gentleman in the stripes. How do you feel? You know, I mean, I don't know if there are other events which have been women in the States. Why do you think there is a need? And do you think this should persist? This should go away? What are your views on that?
I think, there's always a difference of experience that what men get and women get, as she said. But per se for me, I'm trying to help my sister who has been like, from past 3 years after kid, she hasn't gone back to. So now after listening to that, you have that Herky which is specialized to help that sector of it. So I think major of the concept is like helping out to ladies.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, yes, despite, as I said, started that we are definitely the privileged lot. There is, if you just look out of your window and you kind of look at, I'm not even going to Google. I'm still talking about tier 3, tier 4 cities. The reality is very different, right? I mean, it is a fact that even today, I think because of the exposure to education, they might still be completing education, but still a good number of women don't even start. One of the staggering insights for me at Herky was that what we call something as a late starter. There are a lot of women who have done their post-graduation, who are graduate, but they never started working. Because as soon as they finished their education, their parents got them married. And probably their in-laws did not give them permission to work. Right? So that's a reality. So I just wanted to kind of bring in a couple of slides which actually talk about this. That even though we say, I think that pyramid we all know, right? At the entry level, it still looks pretty promising of maybe 40%, 50%, but as we go up, the story remains the same, right? And it is amazing to see defense forces or those uncharted places, women kind of taking the lead and having, breaking the barriers, becoming the first ones. But I think it is still a road very, very long to be traveled to have that equity, to have that equality. Start with equality and have the equity, right? So I think we being those privileged ones should lead the path. Whether it is for our next generations, whether it is becoming that role model for people around us, right? So that's very important. So again, I just want to kind of put in a disclaimer. This is something that I found from product plan. So a lot of this information could also be US specific, but I don't think we are very, very different, right? That number may not be very, very different. So overall, this is since a woman in tech, so I just thought I'll pick up some of those numbers. And only a small fraction of women hold leadership roles in the tech industry, which is not very encouraging. Yeah. So that's why we need more companies like Aspire for Her, Jobs for Her, Avatar, in order to continue to lead. And guys, this is not about only having policies. It is not only having about celebrating Women's Day for that one day or doing it for that Women History Month. It is about changing your mindset. It is about starting it from your home, right? We all are part of this, so we all have to do our bit, right? And okay, the goodness is that product management is a very behavioral function, right? And it's a very cross-pollinated function. When I say cross-pollinated, you will have somebody from sales transitioning into product, you will have somebody from design, engineering. I myself transferred from development to these things. So I think the likelihood of probably finding more women is high. Do you guys agree? Yeah? And that's why when I looked at this data from product plan, it kind of validated my hypothesis. Right? It is still not in the 20s. I was glad to see that there are 30%, the font is probably not very readable. It was about 37% women. It is still not the majority, but it is still the numbers are better, right? And sorry about this, again, it's not readable. In fact, I myself am not able to read this. Should I get here? Yeah. So the first one, the yellow and the blues. Interestingly, this is about the title comparison of men and women in the product, where women are in yellow and men are in blue. Sounds still very promising. But again, please take this with a pinch of salt. And this is the career goals of men and women in the product. Any insights from this? Again, please take this with a pinch of salt. This may not be a very, very true reflection, but maybe 70-75% there. What do you think about this?
That we're not aspiring enough. Do we need to ask for more?
Yes, definitely.
Negotiate harder.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask one Gen Z. Is this your first Women in Product conference?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What do you think about it? What would you like to change in this?
We should definitely stand up more for ourselves and speak out what we think.
Right.
I feel like, again, as she mentioned, men are like dominant in the field and they speak out everything,
Right.
whereas that's like our mindset of that. We can't really speak out what we feel.
Right.
So our mindset should change.
Absolutely. We have to break those stereotypes and the biases.
Might be that because of that nature as well. Because say women's in between they take that gap, right? And men's are always in the field currently.
Yes.
Just like but that because of that gap also that can.
Yeah, absolutely. But how do we normalize that? I think that is a very important aspect, right? I mean, look at it as a part of your journey, and how do we take along the personal and the professional journey without harming it? I think that's very important, right? But yeah, that's interesting. Now, this was something I really, because when I, for example, so I did mention that. So I, when actually transitioned to my product management role, I was actually just coming back from my second maternity. Right, I was on a break for about a year and a half. The company I worked for was very kind enough to give me an unpaid leave for a year and a half so that I could manage my younger one. And I had an older one who was 6 years old. So that made my life definitely easy. But one of the things which I realized that some of the skills which I acquired being a mother were very helpful for me as a transferable skill when I went on to become a product manager. Right? How many mothers are here? Okay, quite handful. The lady in the black. What do you think is a transferable skill to work as a PM?
Multitasking. Yeah.
Multitasking.
Multitasking for sure.
Okay.
I think empathy.
Empathy.
You acquire a great deal of empathy being a mother. You're always, I have to. So, one stage I'm talking to a teenager,
Right.
then I'm talking to a toddler.
Right.
So, it's like you have to get into their mind all
Right.
the time. And so, you kind of acquire that skill that you're always trying to listen, getting into the shoes of the person in front of you.
Yes.
Which is a very important skill for a
Fantastic point.
I would say
Fantastic.
negotiation as well.
Negotiations. Taking the thunder away from my next part of the slide.
Also, it comes like women think broader perspective.
Uh-huh.
They think all about negative scenarios as well. Like so that makes a woman a better PM because you know this degree of it. You are already thought through. Like there is no surprises coming to you at the end.
Right.
So that's how women the best.
Fantastic
We're
point.
comparatively less risk averse, so we tend to think 360 most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's also part of our upbringing. We've always been taught, and in general, when we teach, we've always been taught to think about others before ourselves.
Yes. Put others first before you think of
Yeah.
yourself.
So we tend to put the customers first any which ways.
Yes. Fantastic point. I would now like to ask the gentleman, when you are looking at probably your partner or the woman working with you, what do you think? Do you think they make better PMs? There are those transferable skills you see them applying in their job?
Yeah, means inherently women are better communicators.
Fantastic point. Yeah. So we spoke about a lot of things. We spoke about empathy. We spoke about negotiations. We spoke about multitasking. We spoke about communication. And these are all core foundational skills required to be a PM. Yes?
Planning as well.
Planning?
Also, problem solving. If there's
Yes.
any issue in the household, they can come up with solutions so fast.
That's a compliment for you.
My mother's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fantastic. Yeah. So, I think there are a few newcomers who are aspiring to be PMs, so you know what it takes to become a PM. Anybody who disagrees, which is absolutely fair. But we
I
still.
think, like, you cannot say in general nothing can be said, like every man is different, every woman is different. So, whether they are in numbers supporting or not supporting this,
Correct.
what can be said?
Sure. I mean, these are again general perspective. This is just everybody's opinion, right? I mean, but the data still says we are still at 37%. We are still not at 50-50.
But one
Right?
thing.
Things cannot be generalized and keep on changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Common part of women not being a better is somewhere like we are not aggressive in nature. Like we try to take a calculated risk, and sometimes you might lose an opportunity or business. So that way, sometimes aggressive risk taking will also impact your business and grow it to the next step. So that way, women might take back a little aggressive step behind. So that way, like the men are always aggressive, like they want the next big thing, next big thing. So that way, we might be a convert over here.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a proven data point, right? And you might have heard this in a lot of women, these things. That if there is a job which says 10 things, a man, if he sees probably 5 things I match, they will apply. But for a woman, unless I match at least 8 or 9, I will not even apply there. I will think I'm not good enough out there, right? And I think there is again a very thin line between being aggressive and being assertive, right? But I would say in those scenarios, seizing that opportunity, raising your hand and saying, yes, I'm ready for this and I'm taking, I think it is not only women. There is this whole ecosystem which talks about the organization, which talks about their families, which talks about their own thinking styles, which can make a difference, right? I mean, if you actually look at, there is something called as a diversity iceberg. If you look at that diversity iceberg, the minute we think of diversity, maximum we think is race, ethnicity, gender. We don't go beyond that. But if you just go below the surface, everybody in this room is unique because we all come from very, very different backgrounds, different education. We have been honed in terms of our leadership styles, our thinking styles, by imbibing, by looking at people around us, right? So that is why and that is why diverse teams are very, very successful, including gender diversity ratio high, because then you are kind of being much more inclusive. So I think being, even as a woman, I mean, in a very general note, if I have to say, you really need to understand that what is that strength that every different person in your team brings onto the table and maximize on that, right? I think I talk about one very recent session that I had. There was this lady, she's based out of Thailand, and she comes with about 12 years of product experience, and she comes with a data analytics background. Very, very proficient in today's demand of role of a product manager, and she unfortunately got impacted, right? And I think it's been about 3 months, and I think she went through this whole rigmarole of, am I good enough? Why it was me? It took her like a good 2 months to just tell it on a social media platform to say that, hey guys, I have been impacted and I need help. Now that is one part of it. But I was just asking her, so she was like, what do I do next? Right? That's why she kind of got in touch with me. I said, what's your aspiration? Where do you want to go? Because it all starts with us. And again, that's a personal choice you make, right? She said, I don't want to become a CPO. I don't want to become a CEO. All I want is that I have a job so that I'm financially independent. I can make my own decisions. I have done so much of goodness of work. I can apply that to see some value that I'm delivering. But I want to make sure that I am being part of my child's growing up years. I am available. Right? So that's a choice, and it's not a bad choice. A lot of us make those choices where we have, and that is why when I was talking about my own career journey, nobody's career journey is like a straight graph. It is always where you have to step back, and this is not unique to women. This is with everybody, right? But I think when you come back, very recently, one of my peers in the product leadership, so I have a small WhatsApp group because it is not only at an entry level or a mid-crisis level, you need those peers. You need those people who can be your bouncing boards at every level. So I have this small WhatsApp group of about 7-8 women leaders whom I pester, or they pester each other when we want to talk about something. So this lady has been kind of burnt out for I think like some 8-10 months because she launched back-to-back products and all that. And she went on a sabbatical for about 3 months. And now when she comes back, she's all rejuvenated. She said, I'm coming back like with double rigor. Right? So we all need to give ourselves, be kind to ourselves. Right? Anyway, so I think this is all I had, and I think we kind of captured most of them. I think one of the things which I would also say very, very in favor of a woman is the emotional intelligence part, where empathy is a key part to it, right? Where emotional intelligence about is being self-aware of what are your strengths, what are your emotions, how do you deal in a certain situation, and identify what could be the gaps and what could be the positive part of it, and take that to your work while you are managing your teams, managing your work, managing a meeting, managing your stakeholders. That's what is called as self-regulation. That means whatever you are aware of. So it all starts with your awareness, right? So for a woman, I do believe if we continue to harness our emotional resilience, that will go a long way. Yeah, do you agree? I'm sure you're going to benefit a lot with Yuja, and in fact, I want to talk about it. So this was the time when I was working with Society General, and I think I was already in the midlife thing that I spoke about, where I was kind of confused, you know, should I take up another job? Should I do my own thing? And in those days, thanks to LinkedIn, in my feed, she would frequently pop up, saying that, you know, I'm here, I'm talking to this person. And before I spoke to anybody else, she was the first person. And she was so kind, and I was not even connected to her, right? I used to be working at ITPL those days, and we decided to meet at Eco Space, right? And she was so kind to give me like a couple of hours just to walk through her own journey. So a lot of times it is not about getting answers to your questions. It is just about relating your experiences. It is just about learning from other stories and then finding your own groove, right? So I make sure whenever I can call it out, you need those cheerleaders, those champions in your lives to keep going. And I think this is very, very important, right? At least every 5 women that I speak to from 10 women, they say that, you know, when I look at my peers, they have become so senior PMs, I'm still figuring it out. So don't do that. Your journey is unique to you. As you are unique, your journey is also unique to you. It is good to have role models, it is good to have goals, but don't beat up yourself that why I'm still not there, right? So I think staying positive, and I know it's not that I have not through those negative phases, and I think that's what when Serena said that I'm in that weird phase where I'm still trying to figure out what to do next. I said, I'm sorry, but it never changes. You are always in this weird phase. Now I have done this, what to do next, right? But unfortunately or fortunately, something which looks so much bigger in terms of problems and all that, 2 years, 3 years down the line, when you look back, you will say, my God, for this kind of a problem, I was so worried. Yes, because we are not able to take ourselves out of that situation. We are still thinking so emotionally, we are so overwhelmed. And that is where you need to reach out to people like Nirja, like how I did, to get that clarity. Right? Because it is so difficult to push yourself away from your own soul and think differently. Yeah? So when we think about breaking barriers, right? I mean, it is definitely, thankfully, we have had a lot of people who have already done it for ourselves, for themselves, right? So why do you want to start all over again when there is somebody who has done it and who can probably give you those nuggets of wisdom so that you can adopt it and you can apply them in your own lives? So I think the most important thing, which is probably not even there, I would say, is that go and find that mentor. Go and find that your champion. And always you can have more than one champion, right? The second important thing, which at least I do very, very religious, is that every little joy, see, your journey is not about, oh, when I will become CPO, I will celebrate myself. To be honest, becoming a CPO was not even there in my agenda. Because just like many others in the room, I did not think I was good enough to become a CPO, right? And I probably now I'm here, I think, okay, what will be the CPO of a Zomato will be doing? Because that is very different, right? So this will never end. But I think you first of all need to be kind to yourself. Look back, whatever your number of years, whether it is your education, whether it is your career journey, and be thankful. Show that gratitude to yourself to say that I have come this far, I'll be able to go further also. For me, for example, the first overseas trip that I did, the first promotion that I got, right? That first interview that, for example, I remember I used to work in Excel Technologies in those days, and I remember when I got the offer letter for SAP Labs India, right? I was like 3 years experience at that point. It was a very big day because I used to work on SAP, and it was like, wow, I'm like going to the Makkah of SAP, right? So treasure those moments, because when you reflect back, those are the little joys which will give you that, yes, you can do it, right? So treasure those moments. So, because journey of miles definitely comes with every little step, right? You don't get into that far later. I think I just said resilience, show up every day. It is as hard as it can get. For me, it is as little thing writing something on LinkedIn every day. It's a chore. right? And I'm so, enamored with how Virja is able to do that, because that shows, you show up every single day because you are doing this for yourself. You are doing this for people who admire you. If there is one person who can get inspired by something I'm writing in a month, I think I'll be happy. And there are those little nuggets, right? Very recently, I think I worked with Malti at some point in time, I think back in 2019. And there is their L&D guy comes back to me day before yesterday when he looked at the keynote speaking thing. And he said, I'm just marveled at how you're able to do that. So it keeps you going, right? So of course, go without expectations and karma always comes back. I do strongly believe that. Karma always comes back. But when you're doing these networking, always don't go with, okay, I'm looking to get that job at Walmart, so let me connect to that director of product management at Walmart so that I can get a job there. That is not going to happen. Why will that person do? You have not even built a relationship. That person doesn't even know. There are so many people who, I'm sure, reach out to you guys saying that, hey, I'm applying for this job, can you refer me? Sorry, do I know you? Right? It is good. If you get selected, I'll still get a referral bonus. But be choosy about that. Yeah? So the point I was trying to make was that when you reach out to somebody, before seeking, see how you can give. Right? Because any relationship it takes time to build that relationship. Right? I and Neerja probably only meet events to events. Right? But there is a connect. I know at any point of time if I need help, and I have done that, I can always reach out to her. She has my back. Right? So it worked either ways. I think I'll talk about another incident which was going on in one of the women's group very recently. So there's this lady, she's thinking about having her first child in probably next 1 year. And now there is a project which has come to her. Her manager, out of a team of probably 14 people, came to her and said that I do think that you are the right person. And it's a very aggressive project with some very, very critical timelines and stuff like that. And according to her, it will take her to her next level for sure, if she gets it right? And this lady and this is something like, standing on the door. Her manager tells me, tell it to me by next week, are you ready for this? And this lady is right now definitely in a spot where she's thinking about starting her family. Now, this part is fairly certain that you are getting that project, you are going to get started. The second part, despite the best of the plans, not much in your hand, right? But she's already in the mode where she's trading off, saying that if I take this, I will not be able to do this. Right? Now, there are different situations for everybody. There is no one-liner that this is the right thing to do, that is not the right thing to do. But all I'm trying to say is that, but before you kind of give it up, just reach out. I mean, there are uncertainties which will always come. Right? But you cannot prepare for those uncertainties today itself. While you can start putting the foundations to say that, can I already hire a help who can probably be available to me, who can be at that point of time? Can I already have a dialogue with my in-laws or with my spouse to say that, hey, something like this might happen. Will you be able to support me? So having that conversation is important. But all I'm saying is that if somebody believes in you, somebody has shown that trust in you, then do think about it more seriously than you probably would be about any other opportunity. Right? I was very happy for the next 1 hour that WhatsApp group was so chatty. Women from all, and it was, that lady actually told us the next day, saying that, just looking at, somebody said, I worked till the last day before I went into the labor day. Right? People are sharing stories. So it is not that people have not done it. There are women who have done it. There are women who chose that, no, I want to give priority. So it's your choice. But just listening to these similar women who have been there, done that, gives you a lot of power. Right? So own your career. It's not luck. It is a set of choices that you are making. It is the set of choices. And you have the liberty to take your choice. But once you have taken that choice, don't regret it. I think that's the bad thing you can do for yourself. Move on. And again, it is not that you will not get opportunities again. They might be at different times, may not be very, very optimum for your time. But whenever it comes, always have a very, very pragmatic look at it. What does it do for me? Does it align to my aspirations? Should I take it? So be more pragmatic about it instead of just being emotional. Yeah? And guys, lean in, right? You need to ask for help. Because if you do not ask for help, you will. I remember, for example, back in 2018 when I was working with SocGen, I was never I was always good at talking. For example, if I come to a networking event, I will talk to people. But I was very, very social media shy. Very social media shy, right? But there were, so I was more a product evangelist over there. So I would conduct a lot of workshops for the CEO's office. I would conduct a lot of workshops for our cross-location people. So I was always talking, and my role was an evangelist, so I was always kind of talking to a lot of different type of people. And we as an organization were trying to move into a more product space because we were doing an accelerator program with our startups. We were doing a lot of digital transformation. So we as an organization were also looking at that. And that point of time, I am always immensely grateful to my manager at that point of time. He said that, why don't you look at building a personal brand? Right? Because you have so much to offer. Why don't you share it to a wider set of people? Instead of doing it only within your company or giving the opportunities that you are able to find. Right? And while I remember my first article that I wrote, I think I sent it to 20 people in my group saying that, guys, this is the first time I'm writing something, give me your feedback. And I was surprised, 17 of them said, perfect, go ahead and publish it. Right? And that was the feedback my manager said. He said, don't seek validation all the time. You need to believe in yourself. Right? But we all go through these waves of imposter syndrome, and we always have to seek feedback, internal feedback, external feedback to pull us ourselves out. Right? So all I'm trying to say is that lean in on yourself, own your own success, and go for it. Be bullish about it. And I think the most important thing I would say is that don't overthink. A lot of time we just lose opportunities just by thinking, am I good enough? Should I do it? Should I not do it? Right? You don't break barriers by just thinking about it. You have to act on it. So a bias for action is very, very critical. Leadership reimagined. I remember when somebody said, wow, you are an amazing product leader. I was like, okay. I never thought that adjective of leader in my name. I was a senior PM at that point of time. I was a people manager for 3 product managers, APMs. But it did not occur to me that somebody is looking to me as a leader. What is your definition of leader? The lady in the blue. What is your definition of a leader?
Somebody who can drive things, take the team along,
Okay.
and believe that things can happen.
Okay.
For the purpose.
Fantastic.
There should be the conviction. They should have that conviction first that they are a leader.
Right.
And then they show the leadership qualities.
Perfect. Very nice. You want to add something to it?
I think she said most of it, but
Okay.
definitely, a visionary
Uh-huh.
is to be empathetic, lead the team,
Right.
needs to walk the talk. He or she needs to walk the talk.
Yeah, perfect. Very nice. The lady in the white, she's been very quiet. Yeah?
So for me, leader is someone who treats people alone.
Uh-huh.
So it is not only about oneself. It's about
Right.
your team, it's about your organization, and it's about ultimately what you have to do. So we need to take people from
Right. Okay. Now how? Yes.
Also someone which I've seen very rarely in our country at least. Also someone who is able to identify strengths of people and give wings to those.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. You need to step back and let the people.
You need to give wings to the people who are strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how many of us in this room thinks we are leaders? Wow. Right? She said it needs to come from within. I need to have that conviction. Right? So that I can take everybody along with me. Right? So I think that's the point I was trying to drive. Have the conviction in yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you. Yeah? And I think for that, a lot of things you need to consistently do. It is not that I go into one meeting and I say, okay, you know what, this is the vision board that I have drawn. This is where we should do. I think as she said, you need to consistently act on it. You need to step back give opportunities to people, right? And you need to, in your own mind, you need to start playing that. That is when, because when you believe, there's another lady whom I coach right at this point of time, right? She says, I think I am ready. I said, why are you only thinking? I said, okay, list me down what you think is required to move into the next level, right? And she actually wrote it down, and she noted down what her day looks like. You know, what are the things she's already doing. And guess what? 10 out of 10 things that she needed to do in her next level, she's already doing it. Right? So, a lot of this actually starts from your self-awareness. So, one thing which I always tell my mentees is that, guys, spend some time with yourself. There was one of my peer. He told me something very beautiful which I have adopted in the last few years. Is that every Sunday I take out 30 minutes for myself, and where I just reflect upon how did the last week go by, what went really well. This is something like journaling. What went by, what did I do really well, what are the things I think I could have reacted differently, I could have done differently. Then let me look at my week which is coming next. Do I have opportunities to change things which I thought I could have done differently? Right? See, unless you put a conscious effort to change something, as she said, it doesn't come easy. Getting out of your comfort zone to say, let me launch my first B2C project, it took me a lot. I had to send people messages, you know what, I'm launching this. I had to put it in LinkedIn 10 times. And a lot of times I was not liking it. Right? Because I don't do that kind of a one-on-one outreach. So it was pushing myself into that comfort zone. But what I realized was that a lot of people discovered the program only because I told them. Probably I still haven't cracked that LinkedIn algorithm and I need to attend Nirja's session. Right? So all I'm trying to say is that it takes a lot to wire yourself and say that next time when I'm going into that meeting, I think there's a very one popular, I think you wrote it or somebody wrote it, and I have experience, right? When somebody tells you are looking nice, you don't have to say, oh yeah, it's just this sari, oh yeah, it's just this dress. No. Accept it gracefully. You have put effort to do that, to look nice. So please, don't shy away from doing that. So at least now, one thing which I have been doing for the last few years is like, say thank you. You don't have to do anything. Just say thank you. Because somebody is taking the pain to come up to tell you that, you know, you're looking nice, you spoke very well. Acknowledge that. And add that to your bouquet of milestones. Right? Give a pat to yourself. So anyway, coming back to that, so that was something which I found actually very, very profound for myself. Because what I found was that I was very, very well prepared for the meetings that were coming up next week. And I think one very important action item I started to do was that start putting invites on my calendar. So that is why my founder now also, she says, Sunday night, 9 o'clock, I can start expecting meeting invites coming from Malti. Right? So, everything starts from you. You have to be much more self-aware. You have to reflect on what went well, what could have been better, and you need to start applying. Otherwise, it's like I learned a language, but I never practiced it. It is just like that. And if you don't continuously pay attention to it, it will just fly away. I'll attend one woman in product, I'll attend another woman in product, and I'll just be like, why can I not change a lot of things in myself? Right? So it takes a lot of effort to push it into your day job, push it into your schedule, but go for it. But take one thing at a time. Don't try to change a lot of things because then you will not achieve anything. Right? And I think one thing which I believe, I think I already spoke about being nimble, adaptive, building your credibility. I think one of the things, especially being a leader, I really think makes a difference is that energy level that my leader brings onto the table. If my leader is not very energetic, is not enthused about what is coming ahead, I probably do not get that push to believe in it. Right? So make sure you're probably doing that meeting first thing in the morning when your personal energy levels are high. But you need to constantly demonstrate it. I don't want to name her, but I think one changing moment for me was when I had a leader at ATU. Today she works as a GM in Google. But that lady had an enormous impact the way I look at things. Any meeting, whether it was 10 o'clock in the night, of course we were working in American companies, so we used to have meetings till 12 in the night. Whether it was a meeting at 10 o'clock in the night or whether it was 10 a.m. in the morning, her energy levels were always like that. You cannot have a boss who's at 100 and you are at 10. Yeah? So I loved the way, and she was so invested in the team, and not only about in the executive meetings, whether it was a team game, whether it was a team lunch, whether it was a team meeting to slaying of people, then why you did not, pulling up people saying that why you did not do it, she will do every little thing with that energy level. So while we were as much scared, not being getting caught in a wrong side of things, but she motivated all of us like anything. I am so proud that each one of us, when she left, we were a small team of about 25 people. But today, each one of us who has gone different ways has excelled. And I think a lot of us owe that some amount of that coaching that she gave us. Right? So for me, energy is very, very important. And the other important thing which I look at is reverse mentoring. I am already in old school of thought. I can already see. I have a 22-year-old at home. I can already see the way I think, the way she thinks, and the way you guys will be amazed. This program that I run, the AI program for product managers, the oldest person in my class is 63 years old. Right? So all I'm trying to say is that reverse mentoring is a great way to learn how are your teams thinking about it. Right? And for example, when many of us, especially who are in the senior managers to directors, mid-management to senior leadership levels, when you are looking about your growth, it is not only about your peers or it is not about your executive team. Your team has to stand up for you. The team advocacy is extremely important. So make sure that you are taking time for that. I remember one of the product managers I was talking to, he said he came from a very different way, and people who understand Hindi and probably as a Bengali will understand. He said, I cannot do baby sona for my team, which is basically spending time and nudging them and telling them very nicely. I said, you are responsible for their career. You have to do it from time to time. You have to push them. You have to tell them that you are great. For example, my fitness coach, every single, within an exercise, for example, I'm doing 15 reps. For every rep, he will say, well done. And believe me, even there are times when I would want to give up after 10 reps. But just because he's motivating me so much, I will end up doing 15 reps. So you have to do it. There is no one way or that way. If you want to grow further, you have to take your team along with you. You have to make your team also grow. Right? So that's a very important thing. And the last thing I don't know if nobody has given me looks that you have been going for a while.
I actually want to ask something.
Yes.
For someone who has just started in product and I'm aspiring to see myself in a leadership role, how do I handle situations where I'm struggling to say a no? Because we work in startups where you are expected to adhere to strict timelines, and sometimes you have so much pressure from the business that they expect you to ship suboptimal products, and you are somebody who's very process oriented. You believe in research, you believe in multiple iterations and coming up with something that is right. But you also have certain pressure and you are in a situation where you can't say no. How do you handle a situation like this?
No, you are in those situations every day, right? So I completely am with you, right? See, there always has to be a balance between iterations. So if you, for example, if you were a product manager in a MNC, you are going to have far more set of resources. You are going to have a far more set of processes and people which will cushion you. Right? So that means you are able to do so many iterations, you are able to focus much more on the quality. But when you are in a startup, there is only this much of limited resources, this much of time, and if you are funded, you have investors asking you how quickly can you take it to market. Right? So I think there has to be a balance between doing the things the right way and doing the right things. Anybody wants to do that? I'm saying do it the right set of things and doing the things in the right way.
I mean, timing is also important.
Right.
You can't keep and iterate in a startup system. You can't keep on investing so much time
Correct.
In a product iteration where
Exactly.
you might miss a timing of go to market, right?
Exactly.
So,
So,
yeah.
exactly, as you said, before building an MVP, I would like to do user research. I would like to do so many iterations. But you don't have that much of time. So you need to find the right way where you at least are not having too many blind spots. You are still able to stop. Somewhere you have to stop. You cannot say, I'm going to do user research for 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? So you need to first of all find that balance so that you are able to still do things so that you can take it out to your users. And what you did not manage to learn before you released. And I think somewhere within your product tone, you have to say that, guys, be kindful to us. We are a brand new product. Check it out. And that is where you find your innovators and your early adopters. Right? So I'm just giving you one situation. But now coming back to that, right? Saying no, first of all, why are you saying no? You have to, I know that, for example, there's a lot of context switching. In one day, I'm going to a user research meeting. I'm also working on a GTM for another feature that I have. I'm doing sprint planning for 2 hours. I don't have time to think about strategically what to build next. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, product management is a role where context switching has to become a muscle. And that is why we are paid more. Right? You are paid more because you bring in certain skills which nobody else is doing. Right? So that is not something I can do. But yes, in order to be more productive, I cannot be doing context switching every half an hour. Then you are not productive. So I think first of all, when you have to say no, in your own mind you need to have why are you saying no? Why do you think between 3 things I have to prioritize one and deprioritize other? Right? Go with your data points. Right? Go with why do you think? So you need to have a rational reasoning as to why this can be done and this cannot be done in certain things. Second thing, as a product manager, one thing we are supposed to be doing is problem solvers. So when you are going and talking to your leaders, don't only go with a problem. Go with what could be certain alternate solutions. Maybe this is something I cannot deliver this week, but I will make sure that this, because of X reason, I prioritize it next week and I'm able to give you this by next week. Or break it down. This is what I can do this week, this is what I can do next week. Right? Or I would say, and as a product manager, this is very, very important because we need to build our relationships, whether it is our stakeholders in other businesses or functional areas and all that. I think the more you learn as to why something is important, that helps you to make your decisions as to why something should be prioritized and why something else should be not prioritized. So as long as you are going, first of all, make sure that you are fostering those relationships. Number 2, make sure that you understand that why somebody is asking you to do something. Get an empathy. So, and that comes with empathy, that comes with understanding, right? And have your own data points to say that why you are saying no to something. Right? Because you have only this much, you want to be effective in what you are doing. So, and you need to take few people on your stride. This could be your manager, this could be your fellow product manager, this could be your developer. But all I'm saying is that, and communicate it. Don't say that, okay, I saw him on the coffee corner, we had that conversation. I have told him there that boss, I'm not doing it, so I think we are good. And 2 days later, your engineering manager says that why the PRD for this is still not ready, whereas in the paper it is written that it will be ready by today. And you say, I have told my manager at that point of time. It just got lost. Document. Right? And that is why communication for a product manager is extremely important. Whether it is verbal communication, written communication, it is very, very important. Right? And I think saying no is a very, very important skill to acquire. But when to say it, what to say it, how to say it is very important. Right? You are not fighting a battle. Somebody is asking you to do something because they have certain context which you probably may not have. Right? So try to understand the why and try to understand that how you can, what is the best way. For example, there was this lady, again going back to the one who was looking for a promotion. I said the first time when you want to go and talk to your manager about your promotion, don't set up a meeting. My appraiser. That person will already be, okay, let me look at what is the work she has done. Catch up that person off guard. Over a coffee, over a walk. Because we all are driven by mental models, as she said. You know, the minute I know that somebody is coming and talking about promotion, means they'll come with a whole list of things I have done last year and you still haven't given me promotion. Right? So all I'm trying to say is that you need to create, you need to first of all understand, and at the same time you need to have a dialogue. It is not I will do now or I will not do it later. It is about having that conversation. Another very important thing which I spoke about, this leader who told me was that as a product manager, so I was in an organization which was highly consensus driven. Now it has its own perks, it has its own negatives. A lot of time decision making would not even happen for 6 months. Because I have to socialize the idea with everybody. Right? But that means you are losing time. Right? So she told me that I'm saying that on a daily basis I have to manage my team, I have to talk to my stakeholders, and I have to talk to, I was in a regulated fintech product. So I have to talk to my team in the US to understand what to build. Where do I have time to go and have coffee and chai with everybody? I have meetings with everybody. See, she said, you are going to have lunch every day. You are going to take those short breaks for tea and coffee, because I'm also a heavy coffee drinker. So she said, don't have lunch with the same person in a week. Right? Everybody takes out time for lunch. You probably have to, instead of 12:30, maybe you have to go at 1:30 for that day, based on the preferences of the other person also. And that is something I have followed very, very diligently. All the time, do try to have your meetings, and because you're over lunch, you're talking about a lot of things. It is not only about work. More candid. And then you get your cues as to why this is important. And it also, and I think as a product manager, you cannot do anything a ruthless prioritization. You have to do it every day. You have to do it every hour. Right? So those are some of the last slides. Yes.
So,
I think she already raised, just let me come back to you. Yeah, please go ahead.
So early on when I was studying in the product world, I learned one thing very clearly, that done is better than perfect.
Yes.
So get it out, get it in, test it as soon as you can. Second, tie everything up to OKRs. So if it is not serving the purpose of the company, of your product, of the overall, whatever the OKR is, if it is risk, if it's revenue, whatever it is. If not, then ruthless prioritization.
It's very, very important. Thank you.
No amount of technology no amount of good tech product, anything can take place of business value.
Yes, that is very important.
If you haven't met the market when the time was right for the product, you just missed bus. So that's very important. And I think with senior leaders, one thing which I've seen, if you can tie it back, the cost of doing something over the cost of not doing something else, you automatically guide them into the kind of prioritization you have in your mind. Or once you've done that exercise, you yourself know the answer. What was better prioritization?
Correct. The ROI, the value, the impact. These are some very ground things that you need. I think she wants to add to it.
No, I have different questions.
Okay, I think the lady in the white, you want to add to that?
I want to add to this.
Okay.
So saying no, right, for the startup, customer is a god, because if the big fishes, if you see IBM, whatever, and all, one customer goes, they will not take care. But for the startup, when your customer says you have to do it this now, so actually I got the request today night and I have to deliver tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And then in that case, my team was also like, why we should do right now, this, that, and all. But still, what I have done is I said yes to my senior bosses, and then with them there were 3-4 trades, 3-4 subdivisions. Subdivisions meaning in every trade there were 2 people or 1 people will be working, and every trade I was working with them. Unless and until it is getting delivered. No matter the team did not like that, but my senior bosses wanted to deliver that. So when the project change has happened, I had to say that in the entire forum that it has come to me as a high priority, and right now getting the request and tomorrow morning is the delivery, nothing is in my hand. So I have to push the people like anything.
But it's not sustainable.
It is not sustainable. I mentioned that to the senior leaders that time also. But with that, what has happened, my connect to the team has become as a harsh reading. So on that harsh reading, can you just do something on that?
See, I mean, first of all, it is very, very important that we have to protect our teams. Right? Our teams are young, they cannot understand. So I think irrespective of levels, I think it is very, very important that we as a leader have to shield our teams, right? Because we are the one who probably have a larger view of things. who understand what our teams are going through at this point of time. Because anybody who is outside the team doesn't know what the team is already working on, right? So I think a couple of things that she spoke about, right? That is it aligned to the organizational objective? And you have to be very, very pragmatic, telling your leadership that, see, if you want me, show them that my team is already working X number of hours, delivering these kind of things. If you want to take me something else, then someone has to get out of the seats.
No.
And you definitely, we all go through those highs and lows. I probably work on like that for, let's say, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, like that. For example, we as a team are gearing up for a release which is coming up in May. And it is a non-negotiable date that we have fixed on. So everything has been planned, whether it is your leave, whether it is your work allocation. But then there are times where we can, and I cannot expect my team to sustain like this till December, right? So I think those spikes are okay, but that is where you as a leader need to be plugged in also with your leadership to have a sight of what is coming in. How do you plan, right? And you need to have the empathy. You cannot tell your team just 1 week before, guys, something like this is coming. You need to also trickle down that communication to look for what is coming. So one of the things as a product leader, I would 100% say is that, guys, you have the big picture. Make sure that everybody in your team, the energy part that I was talking about, your engineers, your product managers, your designers, everybody need to be able to relate to it. What is the work that I am doing? How does that ladder up to that big picture that we have? And communication has to be very, very up to the last engineer in your team should be able to relate to that. I think that is something, again, has to come a lot from the top down, right? Where
These all are good for the big fishes. For startup, they do not have a process. They do not have.
And that is where we come in. We as leaders have to bring in those processes. It may not happen in year 1. It may not happen in year 2. But let's say if you are going from a 10 million ARR to a 200 million ARR in the next 2 years, you cannot sustain in the same way. You have to have processes. You need to have checkpoints. You have to say no to something to bring in something. Right? Fortunately or unfortunately, that's the reality. And the startups which have not done that haven't been able to scale up. Right? So starting something versus scaling up are two different beasts. And I always call this as product, people and process. They all have to gear up for that change. It cannot be only process, it cannot be only hiring smart people. Even for those smart people, if you expect them to work 16 hours a day for, let's say, 6 months, they will all burn out, they'll leave. Right? So it has to be that triad which has to go. And for that, you need to get the right kind of people. Maybe don't get them on full time, get agile coaches. Get people who can help upskilling in certain areas if you think your team lacks certain skills, but there has to be those interventions. And I would think it has to be mid-level and senior leadership level who have to gear up for that. It cannot be put on product managers or APMs or from SPM onwards. Forget about PMs. Even in operations, even in sales, even in marketing, it has to be at that level. And everybody has to be educated about that. Okay, I think I'm on to the end of the time. We have, I think, a networking session, so why don't we take up some questions during that time? Is that okay? Yeah? Alright. Thank you guys. I hope this wasn't boring and made some difference.